Mr. Milind, would like to hear from you that I know it's a very fine balancing act, but what would be your view on maintaining that balance between risk and return for Indian enterprises?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Since we are talking about micro, small, and medium enterprises, the kind of a risk that the startup companies, the entrepreneurial companies have to undergo are very, very different than probably how the large businesses go through. Prima facie challenge comes in the basic construct of the business, and the business risk starts from there, is how do you plan your business risk modeling? And many a times, bright entrepreneurs or have certain ideas about product, certain ideas about technology, certain ideas about new ways of servicing people, go with their thought process. First mistake that normally happens, and I'm a serial entrepreneur and have done some kind of a blunder, so can associate with what happens with this small, medium enterprise. I'm still a medium enterprise even now. One, that we don't build management team because we don't have that kind of a cash when we start with the business. And when we start with the business, we get attached to the idea. We get so attached to that idea that we want to implement that idea, and that idea to get fruitful and to materialize, humongous hours are spent. And certain nitty-gritties, right, that how will I create the product, how will I create the price, how will I promote the product, and how will I distribute the product, that nitty-gritties will stay away, right? So much money goes into the funding and research and development of the organization that suddenly when the order comes through and we have to start delivering on a mass scale, suddenly we remember that we have not thought about what should be the price of the product, kind of a market intelligence that needs to be driven, and then to just crash through whatever activities that are happening in your particular business. And the major risk that comes in, and normally we don't talk about that risk in particular, is the cash flow risk. And cash flow is something that if you don't have a cash, you don't invest. If you don't have a cash, you don't run your business. If you don't have a cash, you need to be either with Mr. Dalal or Mr. Prabhakar asking for what do I do next. And Gopals and Prabhakars of the world are probably ruthless during that time because they are also looking at whether they should fund and what is the risk associated with funding this guy. Bright ideas, brilliant thought process, can market this product, but where is his distribution network? And breaking through the distribution network of already an established product, howsoever differentiated product that you have, creates more problem. And anything and everything can be managed through social media and the facade and the statements that you give it to the investors or the fund raisers for you. The cash flow risk cannot be limited by just saying, because you need to raise that funds. And even if you get funds, then again you start talking about returns because the person who is funding you wants that return. So there is a gestation period for you, that what kind of a business do you want to run, what kind of a profitability that will come out of that particular business modeling, how you have done the financial modeling part of it. So risk is in every part. Now we spoke about COVID, we spoke about the whole Ukraine issue and everything about it. In 20 and 21 itself, and these are all publicly available domain reports, 31% of small businesses, 52% of personal businesses closed down in US and in India and in Asia Pacific and in Middle East during the entire 2020. It took October of 21 to start looking at how are we going to bounce. So those MSMEs could sustain that 18 months of period, could only bounce off. So 1.6 times the credit lines are getting extended or getting asked. Are these guys who became resilient, who adopted, and Indians basically adopt. The third risk that comes in from the product perspective and the gestation period, the technology is changing every 2.5 years now. Earlier, the technology used to change in 5 years, 7 years. The versions are changing. The outdated versions are not more applicable. support stop, right? So all these technology products, the support will go off, support will not be available. You need to upgrade to a newer version, a newer platform. And then the technology obsolescence risk also starts rising. So what's your go-to market strategy of a particular product? And then we talk about this whole piece about artificial intelligence, ML and NLP. So technology, though it is advantageous, it provides a disruptive model to do the business. At the same time, if you don't time it right, that becomes a huge risk for your product and your services. That's kind of my thought process is all about. And then coming to returns, you need to be gambler to play high risk and high return game, right? And in this particular gambling zone, there are three types of entrepreneurial personalities that you will get. Some who will claim that I am a big risk taker, I am a gambler, right? Second will say I am very, very risk averse, I will like to play safe because he wants to be in that compliance zone. Because these guys will ask for compliance zone. Are you compliant with this? Are you compliant with that? And second will say, no, I'm very calculated risk taker. He doesn't know what risk he's taking. And he calls it as a calculated risk taker. But at the same time, what do you mean by returns, right? In the initial stage, will you like to play a high volume game? If a high volume game you want to play, are you capacitized to play that high volume game? How much can be your capacity? How much you will invest into your capacity to produce that kind of a stuff? Is a very difficult activity altogether, and you need to model it every time. You need to be completely adaptable, completely flexible, and sensitive to what's happening around you. And that basically dictates what the return should be. My sincere thought process on this is start with a low return, right? Do not take too many risks in this particular kind of a space. And then start building on your business model where you can start getting into low volume, high margin kind of a business.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.